In February of 1979, a small fishing boat was out near the coast of Maui when an intense storm rolled in unexpectedly. Despite immediate search efforts by the Coast Guard and local residents, the boat was presumed lost. Yet nearly a decade later, thousands of miles away, it was found, and what was discovered with it was both chilling and puzzling. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Ralph Maliakin woke up to a flawless Hawaiian morning on February 11, 1979. It was a Sunday, but the 27-year-old still had a construction job to attend with his friend and co-worker, Pat Wessner. After a quick breakfast, Ralph stepped outside, taking in the perfect weather. The temperature was a mild 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or 21 degrees Celsius, the sky clear, and the wind unusually calm for Hana, a small town on Maui's northeastern coast. He got into his truck for the short commute along the Hana Highway. This single road in and out of Hana, with its winding curves stretching over 50 miles, used to be so treacherous that rental agencies forbade visitors from driving it. Yet the drive was stunning, passing dense rainforest, cascading waterfalls, and breathtaking coastlines. Hana's isolation was remarkable. The nearest shopping center was 52 miles away, and the town had only one gas pump, located in a general store. Hana had a history as a sugar plantation town. About 100 of the old plantation-style homes were still occupied, forming a small, tightly knit community. Commercial fishing wasn't common here because the surrounding Alenuihaha Channel is notoriously dangerous. The channel, dropping 6,000 feet deep, with the nearby Hawaiian trout plunging to 20,000 feet, sees some of the highest waves and strongest currents in the Pacific. Its open ocean winds produce powerful swells, making commercial operations too risky. A local custom arose from this danger. When the waters were unusually calm, residents would put aside work to fish. That morning, Hana Bay was serene, so Ralph abandoned his construction plans and went to gather friends for a fishing trip. He contacted Pat, Peter Hanchett, Benny Kalama, and Scott Mormon. Work was canceled, and the 5 men prepared for a day on the water. Ralph visited his twin brother, Robert, who owned a 17-foot Boston whaler, the Sarah Joe. The small fishing boat was basic, bright blue, equipped with a backup engine, a steering wheel, and a CB radio, but it was tough and advertised as unsinkable. Robert had named it by combining their parents' names. After borrowing it and hooking it to his trailer, Ralph met the others at the general store to pick up supplies, spark plugs, drinks, and ice for storing their catch. Their goal was to catch ulua, or jack crevalle, large fish weighing up to 300 pounds, with some intended for sale and the rest shared among family and friends. By 10 a.m., they were heading out of Hana Bay, aiming for a fishing spot Ralph knew well. Within 2 hours, the weather turned violently. By 3 p.m., gale-force winds over 35 miles per hour and heavy rain had struck, alarming families and friends who watched the bay. Other fishing boats returned from the water, shaken by the storm, describing the channel as a furious torrent. Only
the day before, the National Weather Service had issued a small boat warning predicting rough seas, but Hana residents often had limited access to up-to-date forecasts. Despite the danger, some of the men had already ventured into the channel. When the Sarah Joe didn't return by 5 p.m., authorities were notified. A Coast Guard helicopter was sent out, but heavy rain and low visibility hampered the search. Locals joined with boats, scanning the water from sunrise to sunset. Swells reached 40 feet, and boats were tossed nearly vertically. The vessel could have been mere yards away without being seen. Early the next morning, search efforts resumed, with more locals and the Coast Guard combing the area. After 5 days and over 70,000 square miles of coverage, using 44 planes and 330 flight hours, the search was called off. Families criticized the Coast Guard, believing their efforts were poorly timed and incomplete. Some reported hearing distress calls from the Sarah Joe, though officials dismissed these claims. Within a week, the men were officially presumed drowned. Hana refused to accept this. Locals launched private searches and contributed funds totaling $50,000 for additional searches by boats and planes. Residents walked miles of coastline, scoured the beaches, and coordinated exhaustive efforts. After a month, the search yielded only a stray life jacket not belonging to the Sarah Joe. A year later, a memorial service was held, and the town slowly moved forward, carrying the weight of unresolved loss. Nearly 10 years later, on September 10, 1988, a research team landed on Sibylla Island in the Taongi Atoll of the Marshall Islands. The islands were small, barren strips of sand with minimal vegetation and little wildlife, surrounded by mostly empty ocean. The team was evaluating islands for wildlife sanctuaries, but stumbled upon something unusual, a weather-beaten hull about 50 yards inland. The registration number partially survived, HA suggesting Hawaii, and the letters S, A, H, and J were faintly visible on the hull, enough to trigger memories of the Sarah Joe. Inside, human bones were found. Nearby, a makeshift cross of driftwood marked a shallow grave, which also held coral shingles and a small stack of square papers, partially singed. A jawbone rested atop the grave with dental fillings that could help identify the remains. The team discovered other debris, a styrofoam cooler, glass fishing floats, and scattered trash, some on the ocean side and some on the lagoon side of the island. The presence of the hull on the lagoon side of the island suggested some human intervention, as currents alone seemed unlikely to deliver it there. Forensics confirmed the hull as the Sarah Joe and identified the bones as Scott's. Surprisingly, the remains did not show the level of bleaching expected for nearly 10 years in the sun. This suggested the bones had been exposed for only a few years, raising the question where Scott and the boat had been during the preceding decade. Private investigator Steve Goodnow visited Sibylla Island in 1990 to review the site. He found the main engine lodged in the outer reef, as well as additional small bones belonging to Scott. Piecing together available information, he theorized that during the 1979 storm, the Sarah Joe became disabled, leaving the men at the mercy of the wind and currents. Some may have drowned trying to reach Kauai, while Scott may have survived alone on the drifting boat for 2 to 3 months. When Scott's body arrived at Sibylla Island, Goodnow suspected Taiwanese fishermen discovered it and performed a burial ritual consistent with their funeral customs. The driftwood cross and square papers matched practices of burials performed by fishermen in the region. Nails used for the cross also matched those found on commercial boats. Unresolved questions persisted: why the hull appeared in the lagoon, why previous scientific teams had not noticed it, and why the bones suggested only recent exposure. Goodnow's theory remained plausible but incomplete. Today, the families of Ralph, Peter, and Benny continue to live in Hana, keeping memories alive. Robert retains what remains of the Sarah Joe. He believes the storm claimed his brother and the other men, leaving Scott tied to the boat, succumbing to dehydration in the days that followed. The truth remains uncertain, and more than 40 decades later, many questions remain unanswered.